I'm Antony Wood, the Executive Director of the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, and it was my deep privilege to be a co-chair of the Dubai Congress. You've just seen some slides which give you an overview into Dubai and hopefully portrayed some of the reasons that we chose this as a venue for our 8th World Congress. The Council has been organising conferences since its inception in 1969, therefore for the past 40 years. We normally hold 1 or 2 conferences a year. Every 3 or 4 years, we tend to hold a major conference, which we term a World Congress. And Dubai was our 8th World Congress. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was our most successful Congress to date, both in terms of the numbers of people that joined us and the quality of the papers and presentations that those delegates heard. Almost 1,000 people joined us from 43 separate countries, and there were in excess of 50 press people in attendance. Those delegates included architects, engineers, developers, building owners, contractors, building insurers and financiers, urban planners, and people from government departments. The whole spectrum of people who are making tall buildings happen around the world. There were over 100 presentations given during the 3 days from the world's leaders in both tall buildings and sustainability. The title of the Congress was Tall and Green, Typology for a Sustainable Urban Future. And we tackled sustainability on 3 scales. The urban scale, i.e. what can cities be doing to promote more sustainable patterns of life. The individual building scale, what can architects and engineers be doing to promote green buildings in their designs. And the technological scale, i.e. what are the detailed technological issues for creating more sustainable tall buildings. There were 2 other themes running alongside the Congress. The first was the theme mega projects, and this specifically looked at some of the incredible new cities that are being created from scratch in places like China and India. And the third theme was the theme of articulated tall buildings, which built very much on the theme of our 2006 Chicago conference, thinking outside the box, tapered, twisted, tall towers. What this theme was concerned with were the movements in the past 10 years or so to move away from orthogonal form in tall buildings, specifically the rectilinear air-conditioned box that has constituted most tall buildings. What is inspiring these tapered, tilted, twisted forms that are now being proposed all around the world? Why did we choose Dubai as a location? Well, hopefully you got an insight to that on the opening shots. Without a shadow of a doubt, Dubai has been one of the main epicenters for tall buildings in the past 10 to 15 years. In fact, there are some incredible statistics which are emerging with regards to what Dubai and other cities in the Middle East region have achieved in construction terms in the past few years. Dubai itself was virtually nothing but desert only 15 years ago. The Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat produces a book every few years called The 100 Tallest Buildings in the World. This is the last edition of the book, which was produced in 2006, which was actually called 101 of the tallest buildings in the world in honor of the world's then tallest building, Taipei 101. Incredibly, although this was published in 2006, by 2010, when we next published this edition, 59 of the world's tallest buildings will have been completed in between 2006 and 2010, i.e. be new buildings. And of these 100 tallest buildings in 2010, almost a third of them will be located in the Middle East region. That means that by 2010, 1 in 3 of every super tall buildings around the world will be located in Dubai or one of the other Middle East cities. The irony in holding a conference on sustainability in Dubai, which has the 3rd largest carbon footprint of any city in the world, was not lost on many of our delegates. However, this was rather much the point in holding the conference there, to take the information sharing and the messages from the world leaders to the place where it is likely to have the most effect. But I think it's worth just mentioning some words about Dubai, where it's been and where it's headed. When the ruler of Dubai 15 years ago said he was going to create a city out of the desert, I think there were many skeptics around the world who laughed at such a proposition. However, 15 years later, no one could deny that there is now a significant city in Dubai. Does it have the same layers of infrastructure or livability that a city with 1,000 years history like London, or 200 or 300 years history like New York may have? And the answer is clearly no. There are massive infrastructure and urban challenges that places like Dubai and other cities in the Middle East region are facing. However, it is unfair to compare those cities to other cities with the hundreds of years of history and opportunity to correct those problems. Now, coincidentally, just 3 months before our Congress, the same ruler of Dubai issued an edict in the city to say that the city needs to realign itself along green, sustainable principles. And I think a same number of skeptics around the world laughed at such a proposition. Is it possible to create a city which is set off down a clear path and realign it to create a green city? The feeling is that there are major problems in doing that. However, what was highlighted during the 3 days of the conference, that there are already major moves to making that happen. I personally feel it is not wise for those same people to laugh again at this vision from the ruler of Dubai. So what is contained in the next 2 hours of this DVD is an overview of the highlights of the 3 days that we're in Dubai. Of course, it's not possible to contain footage of over 100 presentations and social events that were given during the 3 days. However, we do feel that we've captured some of the main material from the plenary sessions and some of the other important speakers. In addition, the Dubai Congress was not only about presentations. We had a number of important social and networking events, and also an exhibition was held in conjunction with the Congress. Building tours and pre- and post-regional tours to other cities in the Gulf are also included as part of the Congress and as part of this DVD. Before we embark on these highlights of the Congress and Congress co-chair David Scott's opening message, there are 2 final points I'd like to address. The first is the inherent unsustainability of holding a Congress in a faraway place for many people traveling like Dubai. We did make efforts to try and take account of this by entering into an agreement with a UK-based company called Climate Care, who are a carbon offsetting company. And a proportion of every delegate's fee went towards investing in sustainable schemes like reforestation and other projects around the world to try and counter the carbon that was expended through delegates' travel, flights, the production of the paper Congress proceeding and other documents, the air conditioning used during the event, etc. It's not an ideal solution, carbon offsetting, but for an event like this, it's pretty much all we can do to show and give some responsibility to the impact of holding a conference like that. The second point is with respect to the nature of conferences themselves. In the few years that I've been the Executive Director of the Council, it's been very clear to me that conferences have almost exploded in number around the world, and tall building conferences as a hot typology specifically. However, I do want to make one distinction between council conferences and the vast majority of conferences that are held around the world. The vast majority of conferences are organized by more commercial organizations whose primary motivation in holding a conference is to make a profit. The Council was established 40 years ago with the primary mission of disseminating best practice, multidisciplinary information around the world. And 40 years later, this is the same mission. However, disseminating information is not just about somebody speaking to 500 people seated in a room. It's about reflecting on that information prior to the event, recording it in the form of a paper, and publishing it in the form of a proceeding for the benefit of people who couldn't be at the event, and in creating a historical legacy. We're very proud that in conjunction with the event, this document, which is an 875-page proceeding, includes papers from every single presenter in Dubai, irrespective of their status or high profileness. Every single speaker committed to a paper which was submitted the scientific committee who peer-reviewed the paper, suggested possible revisions, or indeed accepted it or rejected it for the Congress. And it is this commitment to the dissemination of multidisciplinary best practice information around the world which helps secure the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat as the world's leading body in the field of tall buildings. I do hope you enjoy watching the highlights of our 8th World Congress Dubai. Thank you.